Magnificat anima mea Dominum,
et exultat spiritus meus in Deo salutari meo.
Welcome to the new episode of the theme, St.Teresa of Avila, Mother of Interior Souls. The attitude of St.Teresa of Avila towards her family is conspicuously found in the lives and writings of OCD saints, her spiritual sons and daughters. St. John of the Cross, the first member and the spiritual father of the OCDs, loved his family tenderly. The saint loved his family in an incredible way. At Durvelo, the presence of his family added to his joy. Nothing could stand in the way of the intimacy the Epps family shared. The Theresian reform drew the family ever closer together. Consequently, when Durvelo became the first house of the reformed life, his mother, brother, and sister-in-law came there to be with him. His mother took the charge of the kitchen, while his sister-in-law did the laundry job. His brother Francisco saw to the cleanliness of the rooms of the monastery. Living and working there provided them with the necessities of life at a time when they were in great need. John's love and concern for them saw to their comfort. Moreover, it meant a great deal to him to simply have them with him. His deep, constant love for his mother and brother impressed everyone. When Francisco was at the monastery, he would accompany his brother on his apostolate. When John was in Castile during his last days, it was easier for the two brothers to see each other. Francisco stayed with John sometimes for many days. The saint never tried to hide his poor brother from others. He would introduce Francisco to high and low as his brother, who is my greatest treasure on earth. John never attempted to change his brother to make more presentable socially. He felt that neither poverty nor ignorance makes any person less a human being. Towards the end of his life, the saint entrusted his mother to a cloistered Carmel. The nuns took care of her most tenderly, as they took her as their best gift from their saintly spiritual father. For St. John of the Cross, an inborn family sense is a part of the stuff that molds a saint. Now, St. Teresa of Lisieux. Since the death of St. Teresa of Lisieux, all the popes, namely St. Pius X, Benedict XV, Pius XI, St. John XXIII, St. Paul VI, St. John Paul II, Benedict XVI, Pope Francis, frequently quoted St. Teresa of Lisieux in their apostolic letters. The Catechism of the Catholic Church quotes her 6 times. Pius XI took her as the star of his pontificate. This 24-year-old doctor of the Church shines along with the intellectual giants St. Augustine and St. Thomas Aquinas. Hardly we find a religious institute where there is no picture of the saint being venerated. Hardly we find a church without her statue. Level-headed theologians marvel at her wisdom and quote her to substantiate their theological and spiritual views. Thousands of men and women embraced religious and priestly life, fascinated by her religious life. Saint Alphonsa, much coddled and cosseted by the Carmelites, had St. Teresa to rely on in the midst of her untold suffering, both emotional and physical. Our saint's autobiography is a travel companion of our beloved Pope Francis. Many highly qualified Protestants embrace the Catholic Church reading her autobiography. France witnesses many books and articles being yearly published. At Vatican, the chapel of Redemptoris Mater displays a picture of our saint. The French feature film Theresa of Alain Cavalier bagged the Cannes Film Festival Award of 1986, and in that year the French government sent this movie to New Delhi for the Chalachitra Kalolsava. She made the teachings of St. Teresa of Avila and St. John of the Cross easily understandable by the common man. Her life and works demonstrated that the message of Jesus Christ is realizable and attainable by everyone of the mankind. The popes define every article of faith in the name of Peter and Paul, even though Paul is not one of the 12. Similarly, St. Teresa of Lisieux is equal to St. Teresa of Avila and St. John of the Cross in authority of the OCD, perhaps a little higher than the other two, when we find the popes preferentially quoting her more in establishing the truths of faith and morals. Young men and women are her fans in thousands. In a solemn ceremony in St. Peter's Square, Rome witnessed over 60,000 young men and women from all over the world carrying the banners with the inscription St. Teresa of Lisieux, the superstar, when Pope John Paul II declared her Doctor of the Church. After the Bible, her autobiography saw more of its translations into vernacular languages. St. Teresa of the Child Jesus was fond of photography. When Celine entered Carmel, she carried her family camera also with her. It was Celine who took many of the saints' photos. St. Teresa wrote 8 skits, recreational plays. She took lead role in 5 of them. She herself composed music for all these skits. She writes in her autobiography, "I didn't enter Carmel for the joy of living with the nuns here. I did it entirely in answer to the call of Jesus. And I knew well enough that it was going to be a mortification all the time, living with your fellow religious when you were determined to restrain your natural affection for them. I don't mean it is a virtue to keep your distance from your own companions in religion. How can people think that? Nobody has ever blamed a set of brothers for fighting on the same field of battle or sallying out in company to win the crown of martyrdom. Obviously, they will encourage one another. And what is more, the martyrdom of each will be a kind of martyrdom for the rest. There is the same kind of solidarity about the religious life, which indeed has been described by the theologians as a martyrdom. One's heart, in giving itself to God, does not lose its natural sensitiveness. On the contrary, it grows more sensitive as its love becomes purer and more divine. I have my full share of this sensitiveness in the love which I bear towards you, Mother Gonzaga, and my sisters, her direct sisters Maria, Pauline, and Celine. Nothing would please me better than to go on living among my own family to fight God's battles side by side with the rest. Here are her words expressing her love for her sisters. When I am in heaven, I will draw from God's treasures and I will say, this for Mary, this for Pauline, this for Leonie, and this for the very little Celine. And making a sign to Papa, she is the littlest now, so we must hasten to get her. She called Celine the sweet echo of my soul. On March 19, 1897, she wrote to Father Roland, her spiritual brother, later when you baptize a great many children, you would give great pleasure to my sister, a Carmelite like me, by calling two little sisters, Celine and Therese, the names we bore in the world. Celine, nearly 4 years older than I, joined me here after he had closed our good Father's eyes. This dear sister of mine does not know the close relationship that exists between you and me. But as we often speak at recreation of our mother's missionary, the name you bear at the Lyceum Carmel, she recently told me of her desire that through you, Celine and Therese might go to China to start life over again. In the fall of 1896, there was a serious question of Celine and another novice leaving for Saigon. Therese suffered in silence over this possibility, but did not intervene. In her last days, Celine was her infirmarian. Therese's last glance was for her infirmarian, who had just placed a little piece of ice on her parched lips. It was a glance full of tenderness and also of encouragement and of promise. The saint said, Theophan Venard pleases me much more than St. Aloysius Gonzaga, because the life of the latter is extraordinary and that of Theophan is very ordinary. Theophan Venard loved his family very much, and I too love my little family very much. I don't understand the saints who don't love their family. My little family of today, oh, I love it very much. I love my little mother very, very much. On September 18, 1897, Leonie sent her the little music box, and the tunes were so sweet, even though profane, that the saint listened to them with pleasure. Therese wrote to Mother Agnes, Pauline, a single caress from you has had more effect on me than any reprimand you could have uttered. I suppose I am made like that. When I am frightened, I simply curl up, and when I am appealed to by love, I can go ahead at full speed. In 1893, when Therese was 20, Mother Mary Gonzaga wrote about St. Teresa. Tall and robust, with a childlike face, and with a tone of voice and expression that hide a wisdom, a perfection, and a perspicacity of a woman of 50. She is a little innocent thing to whom one would give Holy Communion without previous confession, but whose head is filled with tricks to be played on anyone she pleases. A mystic, a comic, she is everything. She can make you shed tears of devotion, and she can easily split your sides with laughter during recreation. If it were necessary to choose a prioress in community, I would not hesitate to choose Sister Theresa of the Child Jesus, in spite of her young age. She is perfect in everything, her only fault being that she has her 3 sisters with her. The entire Carmelite tradition is a witness to the humanizing effect of prayer. Saint Augustine gives us an ineffable example of the love of family. She says that the religious are not cut off from the rest of the humanity or from their own dear ones. Christ died through love to save all men. This love extends first to the family. She was all affection. She was the last of a family of 7 children, the last and the most coddled, not only by her parents, but by her brothers and sisters as well. She clung to her family with as much love as ever and did everything she could to prevent a change in her relationship, especially after her conversion to Catholicism. In the concentration camp, she hardly spoke at all and looked at her sister Rosa with inexpressible sadness. Doubtless, she foresaw the fate of her sister. She really felt for her sister, while at the same time she overlooked her tragic fate. Augustine dispatched 1 letter to her mother every Friday. She wrote in Carmel the story of her stained family. Thank you very much.